Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the COVID Conversations. This is a time where I have a chat to some very interesting people that I have known, some for not so long, some for a very long time, but I now call them friends, to get their take on the world in general, where it leaves them, what they think will happen, just to find out a little bit more about people, just to get a little bit more of connection. With me on my left or right, whichever way you see it, is a person that I've probably gotten to know quite well over the last couple of years, because dare I say it, she's a braver person than I have been, and she is actually one of the teachers at a school that my children have attended or are still attending. So she has to borne the brunt of them, and she says for anything else that they're actually angels at school. I often think she's getting me confused with somebody else, but she's been a teacher for 14 years. She's all that time been in the primary area, but of late she is a librarian. So education is very important to her, which is again a very big focal point on this period of time. But without any further ado, Shannon and Claridge, or as we like to call you, Mrs. Claridge. How are you tonight, my dear?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on your show. Exciting.
She's Shannon. You've been a big follower of the stuff that we've done, and when I think you were a little bit surprised that you got asked to be a guest. But as I have said to you,
I wasn't surprised because I had a feeling that you would ask me to get feelings, and I really did have a feeling when I saw it come up that I would get a request from you at some point. It doesn't happen to me very often, but I sometimes get feelings about things that are going to happen. And
excellent. Well, I'm glad that you got the feeling, because she will I will put her in it a little bit. She's a little bit nervous, but I said we will just roll with it. And as I've said, everyone's got a story. And Shannon, I've already pre-interview learned something about Shannon that I didn't already know. And no, it wasn't the fact that she is very nervous. I already knew she was nervous prior to the interview, but she will kick ass. So let's work right into it, Shannon. Guest intro, we've done that. The barbecue intro. It's past 5 o'clock where I am interviewing in the world at the moment, so I have one of these. G'day. My name. You need all your composure. G'day, I'm Kyle. What's your name, mate? What do you do?
Kyle, it's me, Mrs. Claridge. You know. No. Hi, Kyle. I'm Shannon. If I was at a party situation like this, instead of asking what somebody does, I'd probably ask, "Oh, how do you know this person or that person?"
Okay.
So, and then it kind of leads into, I guess, then what they do. It happens naturally that way. So I'd probably say, "I know this person," and then it might eventually get to the point where I talk about being a teacher librarian, my job. Yeah, so that's what I do. I teach kids. And I guess develop a love of learning for them.
Now, we were talking off interview, one of the things that I learned about you, you haven't been a teacher you've been a teacher for 14 years, so you've gathered a lot of experience, but you've also basically been working in a role to help younger people basically all of your working life.
I have. It's really interesting when I think back, when I got these questions and I had to think back as to how my career's kind of plodded along, and it really the whole time has been about young people. I guess being there, helping young people, whether it's helping them get access to the community with kids with disabilities that I've worked with, helping them with speech, kids with autism, through to, I guess, helping kids remain in or find safer places to live when I worked in child safety, through to working as a classroom teacher, which I absolutely adored. But then as I became a mother, I realized perhaps maybe balancing being a classroom teacher with, I guess, the competing interests of children myself, I thought, how about I guess, look into my passion of, I guess, literature and stuff like that. So that's when I studied to become a teacher librarian, and that's where I now find myself working and loving it.
Even in these times. Do you, was it something you were always, I guess, drawn to? Like, do you think you've always had a bit of a nature that you just wanted to help?
Yes, since I was little, I've always had a little bit of a almost like a do-gooder attitude kind of thing. I think I'm a little bit naive in some ways. I remember as a child thinking to myself, if I could just go into the prisons and explain to the people who are in prisons, if you're just good and you're nice, we can all get along. And I remember thinking that as a kid, which is just crazy. But uh, when I was even looking back at being a teacher librarian, I remember thinking as a kid, it would be a good idea to start a library in my street. And I used to have library cards and all sorts of things for the kids in my street. I ran classroom classes with the kids, and I was often always the teacher. So yeah, I've always done things like that, even since I was a young kid. I don't know why in particular. I guess both of my parents are really lovely people. I guess a lot of people can say that, but it's just been something they've always helped people. So I guess then it's rubbed off on me a little.
And I guess, like you said, I was talking to someone about this afternoon, a kid I was working with, and we were using examples of different kids, and I said those kids are basically, they have become that person. A lot of it is because of their parents. Like if your parents are into that, and I use the term with them, influence over authority. So if you see your parents being nice to people all the time, then you sort of go, well, that's what you do. And I guess in your, these days, without being too general, maybe even the amount of young people you work with, is it something that you want to see that maybe, because there are kids and, that go in with a little bit of a bleak philosophy on the world these days, is it something to try and bring them back in and go, look, the world's actually not that bad when you start to think back?
If I was really thinking about why it is that I want to help people, it's more to, I guess, help them achieve their potential. I myself obviously have had a charmed life and had wonderful parents, great education, surrounded by friends and family, safe home to live in, that type of stuff. But for some people, I guess those things, whatever they are, can be a struggle. And to, I guess, connect with kids when they're still young, before the world has completely ruined their whole idea of how things work, to get to them young and just help them realize that they are capable of so much if they just choose to follow that path. I think sometimes when I'm working with kids, in particular the ones who I guess give us more trouble as teachers, they're often the ones that I get most invested in, because you see them react to you in certain ways, or to kind of ignore what's going on. But it's so frustrating because there's so much potential there. And I think sometimes those are the kids that just need to hear that they can do something good with themselves. Maybe nobody's ever told them that, that they can amount to something great even.
And you would probably see, like, it sounds like you're very much like me, you sort of lean towards these kids that not people have given up on, but they put to the back of the queue, and you sort of go, I reckon there is something in you. You've just got to.
You can see that. You can see that in everyone, actually, like not just those kids, but somebody's ringing me. I'm sorry. I think it's my kids' friends running through. That my kids actually are probably going to be very jealous that I'm on the YouTubes before them. What were we saying, that to see that potential in someone, and it's just something I really want to be able to continue to do. And I think even with the work we were going to do in the Dominican Republic, that was definitely something that I was drawn to be a part of, because you see these people in this cycle of poverty that really haven't been given any great encouragement, or even like the resources to become anything, and then to be able to help them get a step up, leg up, like just as simple as saying, we believe in you, like, and this is what's out there. So
just those little changes.
Like little things.
Do you find going back to like the child protection stuff, like you said, you've had a charmed life, you've been very lucky and fortunate. Were there situations dealing with in that child protection that you just went, I cannot believe this is happening still in this modern day and age, or how can you think it's okay to treat a person or a child like that?
Absolutely. To be honest, actually, I lasted in child protection for 3 months. I just wasn't cut out for it. The people that I worked with there are the most amazing people, but they have the thickest skins, and they need that for their own protection so that they can survive each day, because some of the stuff that I saw in my short time really, I guess, opened my eyes and concerned me. And I then made a decision. It was after there was a big death threat and there was a lockdown where I was working, because of a decision I'd made, the right decision I feel, but because of a decision I'd made, that I decided, you know what, I don't want to get to kids when it's too late. I want to get to them before that. So that's why I thought, you know, education might be the avenue for me to take them instead.
Yeah, no, I would imagine that would be some pretty harrowing stuff. So I hear you are very much a kick-ass librarian.
Who have you heard that from?
They just do that so they get good on their report card.
I don't report, I don't assess.
Well, there you go.
See, there you go. It must be true then. There's no reason for them to lie.
In a world where books are maybe slowly starting to become obsolete. I mean, I'm not that person. I love the smell of a book and the feel of a book.
Me too.
Do you feel that is, I guess, would you say, like a duty for you to try and keep that going and get kids to understand that it's not all on YouTube. There's actually this thing that folds out called a book that you can read?
Yeah, I feel like, though, that we don't give kids enough credit, because so many kids that I have come into contact with are just drawn into a good book, and there are so many good books out there now. It really isn't that hard to sell the idea of reading to most kids. They, like me, are very passionate about stories, and if you can connect with the story through the character or the place or the language, it really can draw you in. So it's just lovely to see their little eyes light up when I read them a good book, or when they find a good book. And I absolutely adore when kids will come to me a week or two after recommending something for them to read, and they're like, "Oh, Mrs. Claridge, that book was amazing. Oh my goodness." And they can't stop talking about how wonderful this book is. And I feel really chuffed that is the case, that they you know, dedicate the time to read the book that I've suggested and then fall in love with it, because that's what happens to me often when I read. I just absolutely fall in love with the story, the characters, and they often stay with me then too for a very long time.
So 2 questions. Do you read a lot?
I read every single day, numerous times, to children, but do you mean books that I would read for myself, for my own purposes? I, to be honest, read less than I used to, only because it's almost like a fatigue thing, because I do read so much. I think I gave myself glasses from having to read so much during work hours. Every class that comes in, and I have 18 of those a week, so that's 18 hours. So at least half of that is spent reading. So it's quite a substantial portion of my week. But yeah, for myself, I love reading. Of late, poetry has been my big thing. Before that, I think I was right into self-help for a while there.
Yeah.
Psychologize everyone.
Yeah, I think well, that's very much a very big genre at the moment. But what's your the second question? What's your go-to book that you will read to kids and go, I know this will get their attention?
Okay. Oh, there are so many. Okay, probably.
This is a winner. This one's going to get them.
I have the book because it was read to me when I was in year 1. It's called Tiki Tiki Tembo. I don't know if you remember it. It's a book about a little Chinese family, and it's all in that Chinese watercolor style of painting. It's hard to explain, but when you read it, it is just so joyful, and there's so much rhythm to it. And as the reader, you have to take this big long breath to say Tiki Tiki Tembo no Sa Rembo Choribo Ruchi Piperi Pembo. Like, that's the name of the boy. And the moral of the story is that because of this long name, spoiler alert, he then it takes forever to save him, like to get him out of the well. So he's very sick for a long time. And then because of that, Chinese people then called their sons by short names instead. So, but it's just such a lovely book to read. And every time I read it, the kids' eyes just, they're there. They're glued. I've got them for a good 15 minutes.
Do you find, is there an age, probably the last question before we move on, is there an age when they get, like, do they get, as they get older, do you have to fight a bit harder to get them to stay interested in the books?
Yes, sadly, I feel like I do lose some kids as they get older, but then at the same time, I think I gain others, because you can tell at book club meetings I've had at school with the seniors, the year 5s and 6s,
Yes.
you know, you can tell the kids who love reading, because they are happy to sit there and talk about the books for, you know, their lunch break. They're happy to come in and talk about it. And they say, oh my goodness, what are we going to do, Mrs. Claridge, when we leave here? We're not going to have book club meetings anymore. And they're actually legit, they're authentically sad about not being able to talk about these books. So it is harder, but these days there are things like graphic novels that have really come to the fore, and they definitely help to, I guess, attract readers that may not otherwise.
So as maybe probably like a little bit of an older school librarian, do you give in and go, I'll do the graphic novels because at least they're still reading one way or another?
That's my philosophy. A book's a book to book, right? Like, you know, if you're reading, you're reading. It doesn't matter. And as it turns out, our world is quite visual these days, so it really doesn't matter. Like, you have to read a lot by looking at graphic novels, which are, if you haven't heard of that, it's like a comic. There's a lot of detail in most graphic novels, and you really have to know what you're doing to read them. So,
Claridge, I'll give you a bit of feedback. That's how I actually learned to read. Was comic books was very big to me.
What was your comic of choice?
Spider-Man was my go-to. Still is my go-to.
My dad was big on Phantom. That was his.
My grandfather used to buy me. He would buy me a Phantom comic every week. Actually, this is back when they were like 20 cents or 50 cents.
I love seeing those prices on old.
I've still got them in boxes at my mum's place. So yeah, comic books were big to me.
I got a Babysitter's Club book bought for me every week on a Friday, and I'd devour it within the hour. I remember Mum having to turn the light on because I'd sit there from 4 o'clock reading it until I'd finished it, and it would often be 7 or 8 o'clock that night. And I remember her turning on the lights in the lounge room so I could just keep reading it. Yeah.
It's funny, you look back on those moments now and you go, it's no wonder I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. It all makes perfect sense. It was fated.
It was written. So tell me, what is something you're passionate about?
Okay, so other than story, which we've kind of discussed already, art is another big thing I'm really into. And I guess one of the books that I gravitate towards are, you know, the illustrations are by amazing artists, but art, you know, from a home decoration perspective as well, is something I'm really into. I love good art. I just bought a really beautiful sculpture a few months ago that I'm loving. Like there's, I don't know if you can see, there's behind me that little one there. That's actually one that my son did, and I'm really proud of him because he seems to have taken the whole art thing on board as well. He actually doesn't like that piece back there, but I love it. He said he made a mistake on it, but I think it's the mistake that makes
That's what makes them worth the money.
Like, I don't like it, Mum. Why do you like it? I'm going, I don't dislike it. I love it. There's just something about it. It's deeper or more honest or something. There's something about it that I just love. So art is something I'm passionate about. Home renovation, something I've, with the help of my husband, renovated 2.5 houses now, if you include the other property. And that's been quite the experience. We're only halfway through this one. We've pretty much done the top level, still a bottom level needing to be done, but I absolutely adore, I guess, finding the perfect fittings, that type of stuff. So, and I think that's all about, for me, like I was thinking about this question the other day, what is it that drives me to like these things? And I think it's like philosophically about finding the beautiful things, or like catching the beautiful. And I feel like I do that a little bit in life too, with moments and stuff. So I'm very driven by that as a person, not sure why.
So I guess you could say you're hunting the good. You're hunting the good in a lot of different mediums.
Yeah.
Is either one of those things something that, you know, you go, oh, maybe I could have actually done that for a bit of a living, or is it a hobby?
You asked. It's really interesting. It's almost like you can read my mind. No, it for me, I find when I do something and I do it repetitively, like I do with my work, which I adore, I love it does take a slight joy from the process of reading for me. So I'll often only find myself reading books for me over the holidays, although I love to read, but it's just I don't read as much as I used to for myself. And I think I've thought about the whole, could I be an interior designer or something like that? And as much as I love it, I think I only love it for me. I don't know if I'd like making those decisions for somebody else, because my houses and the way I style them, it's really like personalized towards my tastes.
Yeah.
And but then again, it might be fun to spend somebody else's money when you have to budget it yourself. That's hard as well.
Providing they like the end product.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think that it's something I like doing for myself, not so much for other people. Whereas, my role as a teacher librarian and all those other roles, it was more about a purpose, whereas this is more a passion almost. So I think I really like having my work be my purpose, whereas this is just what makes me tick. And
well, that's the saying, I think, is what is the saying about your passion? If it remains your passion, then it never will be work. And it's a very fine line we tread. Like you said, you've always loved reading from an early age. So you go to start, essentially reading for work, and you go, I need to tread this line. And I've been talking to other people, like a lot of martial arts people that do this full time, and they say they do tread that line where they go, when does this become work and when does it stop being passion? So, I mean, I think it's good to have outlets that are...
Yeah, and it is an outlet. It's definitely an outlet. That's I hope that hasn't been on the screen the whole time. I just saw
no, you're good.
An arrow there. If anything, it's a little bit of advice. So I'll go to Coles and I'll get the groceries and I'll see the latest Vogue Living or Home and Garden, and I'll put that in, that's what I do. Like I read, but I flick through magazines that way and get my ideas. And to be honest, my style and sense of style has matured as I've got older. Like, whereas before, I think I would have gone for very symmetrical and very shiny, new-looking things. I think I've worked out that maybe, things that have a little bit more of a story or a history behind them. And
yeah, I definitely agree.
Or organic in shape and that type of thing works better long term. It just feels nicer being in something that isn't quite so catalogue pristine. So,
the houses that you've worked on are a bit older?
We worked on one that was built in the 1890s, and what I loved about that house, my husband and I are both fascinated by the fact that the beams at the front of the house would have been brought to that house when it was being built by horse and cart, which just it blows your mind, really. And so to then not treat that house with the deference, something like that, all the blood, sweat and tears that went into that would be a real shame. So you do have to kind of respect the history of places like that. This one that we're living in now is from 1910. So with less heritage kind of restrictions here, but still
you would love our house when you get a chance to have a look. 1891 to 1897 we've tracked. I think it was when it was built.
Oh, how lovely. Wow. Just imagine all the people that have gone through that house.
Well, we've worked out we're only the third owners.
Are you for real? That's amazing.
Yeah, the previous family to us owned this, from what we can determine, about 65 years. And then the previous owners to that obviously built the thing. So it's definitely, it's more Helen than me, but just the way where it's progressively given this new lease of life, I love it. It reminds you.
It's like that, finding that beauty, like catching it, like finding the potential. Like there are, like, obviously it has good bones. I can see the beautiful VJs behind you, which I love, and I think hanging any art on VJs just immediately makes the art just pop. But that's just me. But that's not to say that new builds and stuff like that are devoid. I saw those in a photo on Facebook. I love them. Say that new builds aren't devoid of all that kind of character as well, but some, if they're done well by architects and everything's thought out, the details, they can be just as beautiful too. But I, like your wife, obviously gravitate towards the older buildings.
Yeah, we definitely love it. It's been an awesome ride, and I've said, without sounding too negative, the amount of effort we've put into getting this place, I'm going to die in this house.
It's your forever home.
It is my
I'm
forever
not
home.
sure if this is our forever home, because I wouldn't mind living by the sea, or doing up an old warehouse in the inner city somewhere. So these are like, I love this house. I really do love it, but I just don't know if it's forever.
Just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
time
sea
will tell.
calls me. The sea calls me. I want to live near there.
Time will tell. So we were talking earlier. You've done a bit. You've seen a bit. What's on your bucket list?
Okay, so obviously being a mum, I want to see my kids grow up and find their place in life and get all their heart's desires. Like that, would, I guess, be satisfying to see that happen. But personally, for me, living a life of abundance, I heard one of your previous guests talking about, that abundance mindset and stuff like that. And so I was thinking how similar we were in that way, other than the fact he is a commando and brave, and here I am, little librarian. But I want to live a life of abundance and live by the sea, and maybe have a boat that I can go out on. That they're very selfish things. But if I was being really specific about things I want to do, that would include going to, I don't know if you've heard of, it's called Exuma. It's in the Bahamas, and you can swim in this beautiful crystal clear water with these feral pigs. I've seen photos, and it just looks like the happiest experience ever. So that's something, and maybe going to some places like Machu Picchu, Egypt, those ancient civilizations, and definitely to Uluru as well.
So travel is right up there, and it seems there's a bit of stuff involving the ocean.
Which is weird, because I'm very fearful of being in the ocean, like swimming in the deep ocean. So I don't quite understand. It's like a contradiction in itself, that I want to be near the ocean all the time, yet I'm scared of being in it. So
I think we liken it to I always think, like, when I first moved here from the country and saw how much the houses were that overlooked the Brisbane River, and I went, it is just this big brown bit of water, but people see it and it calms them.
It is definitely a calming effect being in that.
We see the water, we sit at the ocean. Like, I can sit at the ocean and just look at it.
Because it makes you feel like you're small, but not in a bad way. It's almost like whatever worries you had are now so small compared to that big, vast mass of water. Yeah, that's how I feel anyway.
It can be the calmest thing, and it can be the most powerful thing.
Yes.
Is it something, are these bucket lists that will involve, like, would you like to see your children take on this sort of bucket list stuff?
I don't need to travel with them to those places. They're like personal things myself. Like, we've done lots of traveling together as a family, I think.
Is that important to you, that they see the world?
Yeah, definitely, because they already have all of these beautiful memories about places we've gone, like Japan and Hawaii. A big favourite for them is a place, Kauai, one of the islands in Hawaii, because of all the beautiful chickens or roosters that they're just they're not native, they're a bit feral too, like those pigs, I guess, but they just would wander everywhere, and you'd see them on the beach and stuff. So they have memories like that, and just being able to talk with people who are different from themselves, I think makes them, I guess, more open and I guess, what's the word? Better, more knowledgeable about the ways of the world. It's not all about the way they do things. People do things differently.
Well, I guess being a teacher, it's a form of education too, because you would teach people from all sorts of walks of life, and we're all equal. There's no one I'm thinking I'm better than you and that sort of thing. So, and I think that's very important. Like, we're trying to get the kids traveling more and more as they get older to understand there is a big world out there, because I think, unfortunately, and I know travel costs money, and especially in this time we can't travel.
It's quite restricted.
But you can still, even get him to watch stuff about travel, just to understand there's such a different culture out there and what the world involves.
Yeah, just without a doubt, it's good for anybody, not just kids, just anybody to get out there and experience the different.
Do you think when they come back, they're a bit more understanding of what the big picture of the world is? Like, we were talking earlier about going to the Dominican Republic, which we aren't obviously able to do now.
2021.
2021, we'll look at that.
Yeah.
It's somewhere that, even though I wouldn't go so far to say it's dangerous, but it's probably not safest country in the world. I don't know what is, but I would still be, when my kids become late teens, if that still is happening, I would consider taking my kids there, because it's, again, like, my kids had a massive eye opener when they went to Thailand earlier this year, seeing just how different that culture is. And as we've said before, talking about the Dominican, everything we put first in our culture, they put last.
Yeah.
So I think that bucket list kind of thing is good. And it's funny how many people are putting travel as on their bucket list, because they just want to see what else is out there.
There's so much out there to see, and I'm by no means an intrepid traveler. I haven't been to crazy destinations or anything like that, but I've been to Europe and America. It's looking very different at the moment. I'm really feeling for everyone in New York in particular, like having been there and walked those streets, and just the buzz of being on those streets surrounded by all those people, and just to see it as it is now is really quite heartbreaking. I'm scared for them.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Which I guess will lead into our next question. And I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on a few things here. So the current situation from A mother, B, an educator, and C, someone who just spoke that they want to travel and see a bit of the world, the parts of the world maybe they've seen. Let's go with number one, from a mother. How do you see things going on at the moment?
Well, I would probably spend less time with my kids than I would usually, but their father has been at home with them since they've been pulled out of school. We pulled them out a couple of weeks before the holidays.
How is he coping?
He's doing okay. He was like that Robin Williams character in that movie. He was one of those guys, what's the name of that movie? But he was very inspired teaching. But it's because he had the time, and then things have really scaled up with his business, because he started a business this year with a couple of mates, and he's been super duper busy. So he's had to, I guess, make expectations a bit more realistic. But I said to him that that's what we want for parents to do at this time, is not to think you need to occupy your child from 9 to 3 like we would. The learning that we're sending home or having kids access really should only take them a good couple of hours. And then if you can, I guess, schedule that in around whatever else is going on in your home, then that's all that we really want you to do, is be able to just get a bit of learning done. And to be honest, when I come home, the first thing my little girl wants to do is hug me, and I say, no, you can't hug mummy until I've had a shower, because I've been out in the big wide world. They're all down with the whole coronavirus, and they know what's going on. But then the next thing I notice is that they're so happy and relaxed. So for them, they've had so much time to hang out with each other, so it's cemented their relationship with their dad. I've got a little boy and a little girl with each other, and then they've just I guess taken like it to a fish to water when it comes to talking with their friends online. So I'm actually not worried about them. I think even if their grades suffer, they're both really clever little kids, but if their grades suffer, it's just a blip. It's not going to last forever.
And this is what as I said to you earlier, I've interviewed someone teaching high school, and he made a very interesting quote. He said, in 10 years' time, when you're going for a job, no employer is going to look back on your Term 2 report from 2020, and that's the deciding factor on whether or not you get employment.
No, to be honest, nobody even really looks at your big score at the end. What's it called now? Like your OP score? Nobody cares. It really is more about your strength of character and what you then achieve and what drives you. That's how you get places in life.
So I guess as an educator, that's sort of like, if there was a piece of advice to give to these parents that are pulling out their hair, because I think is there a misconception, you think, with some of the parents that you may have spoken to, that they have to literally sit the kid down at 9 a.m. and go, you will not get up until 3, or is it just do your work and you're done?
I think the way that different people have approached it, different depending on their circumstances. But anybody I knew personally, I would certainly say to not worry, and to use examples like of people who've spent time out of the traditional schooling system and have still become very successful. Some of the most successful people I know, that type of thing. Like it'll be like 6 weeks, won't it? Like fingers crossed, 6 weeks. That's nothing. And I think, like, if I'm being honest, if a parent were to come into a classroom situation and watch us for the day, and then with a stopwatch time the actual amount of time their child is working, without any of the other disruptions, like cleaning their hands and getting their lunches out of the fridge, and then lunchtime plays and handing out the sheets, everything, they'd be surprised it really doesn't amount to 6 hours of work. So, but there's all that socialization and learning to be patient and all those other things that you get by being at school. So, yeah.
How's the vibe? So you're still at school. The kids that are at school, how's the vibe with them? Like, they realise there's something going on, or they go, why are we even here? But they understand the big picture.
Everybody, like, the kids know about the coronavirus, and I remember in the first week or two prior to the holidays, there were kids asking, when's it going to stop? I'm sick of it. Like, they're just so honest and upfront about what they're concerned about. Then, I've had quite lengthy discussions with some of the older kids about their concerns, my concerns, that type of thing. So I think kids are amazingly resilient. They take everything just, like for what it is, and roll with the punches and just do their best with what they've got. Like, even taking away their playgrounds at the moment, at school and outside in parks, they find other ways to play. Like, today I was watching this gorgeous little boy with a hula hoop, because they could have their own individual hula hoop, make this game up where he was skipping with it and just having so much fun. And I guess if it weren't for COVID, maybe we wouldn't have had those experiences for him, because he'd been on the playground. So
yeah, exactly right. Do you how would I put it? I guess, without getting involved in a political discussion.
Don't get me started, Kyl.
You don't want to do that. Do we just want to? You just want to every now and then just. You just want to every now and then just say to people, like you basically just said, it's only 6 to 8 weeks. It'll be okay. We were talking about Cass's one where he said World War II lasted for 6 years.
I know.
We're talking, just do this for a couple of months and we'll get through it.
Yeah. No, really, like, just to appeal to them as humans, it will be okay. Like, I think a lot of people just need to be told it's going to be okay, and to have that person who's telling them it's going to be okay to believe that. And really, like, when it comes to education for our kids, I think it's definitely going to be okay. If anything, I think it's going to give them so many wonderful opportunities to think about life differently, that maybe without this time that we've had, they wouldn't. It would just have been like following the set path of the curriculum. Whereas now, like, I don't know if you've noticed all the awesomely creative memes and the humor and all that stuff that is just out there because people have the time. And it's the same for kids. Like, you should see the cubby house my kids have built. It includes fluorescent light, it's got charging points, there's windows, and then we've just got something else delivered, actually the couch that I'm sitting on, and it came in a big box, and now they've got an extension going, and it's with time they've been able to just follow this through and make it something wonderful. So I think everything's going to be okay when it comes to education. I think, we don't need to worry.
Like you said before, it's just a blip. And the final piece, I guess, of the puzzle, like you said, you've travelled a bit, and we spoke about New York off camera. Do you sort of, like, we as Australia, we're doing good, but I read an interesting statistic today that at the time of this interview, there's been as many people die in America of COVID as there was Americans in the Vietnam War. Do you sit and look at that and go, that is just, I can't piece that together. So if we need to just be a little bit more sensible for a little while longer, it's okay.
No, we certainly don't want to have to deal with what America unfortunately is dealing with at the moment. But like, for me, I guess because I was born after the Vietnam War, like for me, I think about September 11, and I think that was like a few thousand people that died, and what a big a part of that time and history it's become. And then this, we're living through this, and it's so many times more horrific. You know, there's so much loss of life and way of life. You know, I guess our way of life changed after September 11 as well. But I just hope that they can make it through. There are lots of amazing people over there and in other places like Italy, and so I think long term everybody will be okay. But it is in the short term I'm concerned about them.
We just have to be patient. Moving forward, is there anything Shannon Claridge, when she's allowed to be COVID free, is there anything she will do a little bit differently, or is there anything you've really taken away from this?
Probably just to appreciate what a privilege it is to be around people and to go to a bar and have a drink, or to sit.
You are a social person.
I am. I very much feed off the energy of others.
So are there times like when every weekend lately it's like I can't go do that? Are there times where you go, this sucks?
Absolutely. I like, to be honest, on Anzac Day, it's quite low. Like it just, I do miss that energy. But I guess for me, like what I'm going to take away from this is that I guess I need to catch myself in those happy moments when we're out, just really being grateful for our way of life when it gets back to normal, because it's pretty amazing. And to not have that closeness, like for instance, this whole COVID thing's basically kicked off for me with us not being able to celebrate my dad's 70th. And that was a real punch in the guts, basically, because, you know, we want to celebrate him. He's a beautiful man. And yet we had to talk with him like this, like we are now, and we're still connected, and it was still emotion, but it is absolutely not the same as sitting around a table and hearing the noise of the chair as you like somebody has to go over there. Just that noise that is involved being like that happens when you're around your family, or around people you love. It's just different when you don't have that. So that's the one thing I'm going to take out of this, and I guess just to really look for the good in people, because that's what I've seen. And I know a lot of media initially was focusing on the toilet roll stuff, and that kind of made me sad, not because I thought it was true, but because there wasn't enough focus on all the really amazing things that were being done.
Jump to the negative.
Yeah, so it's just, so they're the two things I want to do, like appreciate the way of life that we had and hopefully we'll have again, but also to maybe focus more and look more for that good, because there's so much of it.
Yeah, and I think we will take, like I said, we will take less for granted. But like you said, you know, when you've got that green light to travel again, will that be something that you'll go, okay?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Nothing will hold us back from doing a bit of traveling. I would happily, if I could tomorrow, fly back to Napa and San Fran. Also like California, just the way I felt when I was there, it felt like a place that was made for me. I know that's really self-centered, but no, like it's just a place where I felt really like myself, and so I want to go to those places and have those feelings again.
I think that's definitely something to think about, because it's funny, like I've had two, like the groups of people that I've interviewed, some are very comfortable, like they love being at home.
My husband's a bit like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know whether like down the track, like you said, with your husband's work, if there's a way, okay, so I've actually managed to do this at home by I've been forced to. Maybe when I've got a choice to do it, maybe I can try and do this at home more. But at the same time, I'm sure if we got an open up tomorrow and, you know, Virgin, God bless them, offered some really cheap flights to get themselves out of hot water, I reckon they would get snapped up like hotcakes.
Yes, if there was a vaccine and
if everything allowed us to do so.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be something that I'll be wanting to do, like if that's an opportunity to take advantage of. But I have I have enjoyed being at home. Like as Helen has said, we've kind of, in a way, because we do so much stuff on the weekends, we've kind of got our life back, as
Yeah.
she's put it.
We've had time for each other to cement that relationship with
Well,
each
it's
other.
been really good. And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's been times when the kids have been, you know, they do what they do. And as you
Great
would
angels,
know,
house devils.
my kids have, as you would know, my kids have very different personalities.
They know what they want. Your kids know what they want. And I think
Especially,
that's because of your good example, Kyl. And
especially the youngest one. But no, I mean, I think it's trying to get them. And again, like speaking from I know like Lila being in grade 7, there is that little bit of am I doing the right thing? Have I got what I've, you know, if we're just doing what we're asked to do, then that's all we can do.
they shouldn't worry one little bit. They definitely take responsibility for their own learning, and that's what you want with kids. You want them to love learning and to take it on themselves, and leave it to them if you can. If you can.
I'll
It's
try.
not,
I did get told, I've already said to Ivy that maths is not my strong suit, so she skips me. And there was a blow up the other night. She had to ask Helen because Dad doesn't know anything. So
oh, that's
it's all right.
not true.
I'll back away.
Well, my husband has left all the RE lessons for me to teach because he's a little bit of an atheist and
Wow.
doesn't want to go there. So.
I got kicked out of Sunday school at 15. So yeah, that'll do me. I'm out.
I'm surprised you were there at 15, Kyl.
My mother went to school. My mother went to church every Sunday. Do you feel that being an educator, especially in these times, this is probably a little bit off track, but I just thought of it then. Being an educator, you come home, and because they're homeschooling, you have to become an educator again. Oh, Mum, thank God you're home. I've got a question about this, and this.
No, if anything, when I get home, I guess the kids are in relax mode.
Mm-hmm.
Talking with their friends, playing Roblox or playing in the cubby that they've just built. So I think we've kind of, or they, not really we, they've got into a routine of doing their work in the mornings, and by the time I get there, everybody's more relaxed. But that being said, sometimes in the morning, especially if my husband has stuff on, I will try and set them up with a book on Sora, which is like an online app for reading, or set up a few things or check emails the night before. But to be honest, I'm really quite lucky because it hasn't fallen to me to do that. So I guess I'm just focusing on the ever-changing role of teaching where I am at the moment. So
do you think there'll be a portion of kids that will have trouble adjusting going back to the habits of school?
Possibly, and then just like at the beginning of a school year after this week break.
Because that's essentially what it's going to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. So I guess they will, I guess, need some adjustment time. But at the same time, I think what will happen, and this is another one of those silver linings that we are talking about when it comes to COVID, is that the kids and the parents are probably really going to appreciate school and teachers and all the other beautiful people that work in a school.
Yeah.
Because, that's what they've missed for the 6 weeks, but they've still had to keep learning. So I think, some readjustment maybe to schedules like bell times and that type of thing, but kids are pretty good. They really just kind of roll with it after a few days. So
how have you gone, this is probably my last one, how have you gone, like you said, socially? You like the social mix. Have you started doing little Zoom catch-ups and FaceTime catch-ups, or how have you adjusted to that or tried to make do?
I definitely speak online with my family. That's how we tend to connect with friends. Somebody lives up the road, a mutual friend, in fact, and we've been able to see each other face to face with that whole one person visiting or 2 people visiting type thing. So we've been able to connect. Families have spent a lot of time together over the years, so it's almost like we're one extended family. There haven't been a heap of Zoom meetings that I've been a part of, other than the ones at school with book clubs, although we always talk about it, but this is what happens with mums. Well, I can't speak for all mums, but you say, oh, let's get together for a wine, let's do that soon. And because life just gets in the way, and really
Weeks later,
our needs go down the priority list. So I guess if anything, it has been quieter for me. So, but then, you know, work has been really busy. So maybe that's something I can take away from this, that maybe I needed the quiet time. Who knows?
well, that is something. And again, the other people I've spoken to said, like, it has been a good time to do maybe just a little bit of reset. And like I said to you, we have a lifestyle where we have something on nearly every weekend to some degree. To have 5 odd weekends in a row now where we've had nothing, this is unheard of. It's just never happened before.
It is a strange thing, isn't it? And maybe it shouldn't be so strange for us. Maybe
That's
we
what
should
we're saying.
do less in the future. But that being said, I love being out and I love being busy. So I don't know whether I'll just swing right back where I was or not. I'll certainly appreciate it anyway.
Yeah, time will tell. I think it's just going to be I mean, I don't think we'll get to go straight back into it straight away, but yeah, I think one thing I've spoken about is whether we write a list of what we need to get done over the course of how many months.
Yeah.
Do we go back to the rule? Like, we had a rule for a little while and then it got a bit blurry where Sunday was always free. Do we stick to that steadfast? But like you said, no, I've really enjoyed doing these probably as much, if not more, than the people I've interviewed, because you just get to speak to somebody different. And that's nothing against my family, but you speak to the same 3 to 4 people all the time.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate what Tim Thomas said. I loved when he was saying that it says a lot about who you are as a person, that you're asking these questions, and not just asking the questions, you're listening to our answers, and then you're sharing that. And I think for somebody who loves stories and loves sharing stories, I think it's really formidable, and you should be proud of you. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Claridge.
I sound like a teacher now, don't I? God stuff.
Look, we'll finish up there. So for anyone wanting to watch these our Kyl Reber YouTube clip, you can have a look at my website, kylreber.com.au, Facebook page, Instagram page, and every other thing, social media in between. If you like what you hear or watch, share it, like it, subscribe, and there will be many more to come. And when this is all over, it'll branch maybe into something else. But in the meantime, Shannon, Claridge, it's been a pleasure. The kids have stayed very quiet.
In the background listening.
Mine might have been jumping around minimally, so that's been okay.
Thank you, Kyl. It really has been quite the honour, and especially listening to the other people that you have interviewed. To have me then interviewed, I don't know, I kind of feel like, wow.
As I said to you, everybody's got a story. Oh.
Hello there.
She just likes hearing the sound of her own voice.
And it's a beautiful voice in that.
Look, thank you. And it's in the same token, Shannon, it's an honour and a privilege to know that you're one of my child's educators.
I didn't hear all of that. Just
look, I was having a moment. I said, thank you.
This is technology, and this is my issue. I had so many of these issues today. Technology is brilliant until...
One moment. I'll say it again. It is an honour and a privilege to know that you are one of my child's educators.
Thanks, Kyl.
Maybe we're getting it right somewhere. Thank you very much. You've gone a bit funny again. Guys, there we go.
He doesn't want you in the moment.
We're back. We're going to cut this off before it goes again. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Guys, listen up for more. Thank you for watching, and we will see all of you very soon.